supportive or really negative.
And while they're hashing over the root issues in each of their lives, I want you to be thinking in the audience about your own family issues and your own root issues. Some of the other questions that continued on into the next page were, in what ways does your family expect you to be loyal to them? Are you still strongly connected to your family? Or have you broken any family ties? A lot of us struggle around 18 years old or so, that according to passages, the book Passages, if you've read any of that, and I think it was published years ago, Gail Sheeny, I think was the author's name, is a lot about cutting those cords from the family and really going out on your own. And a lot of conflict comes in to being around that age. And if you never actually break away from your family in order to find your own autonomy or your own self-expression, then some place in life you are going to have to go back to working through that issue in order to move on with your life. A lot of people get stuck there. They're still tied into a lot of things that their families expect of them. Just think about the holidays, and that will bring up a lot of issues for you. Why don't you want to go home at Christmas? Or why don't you want to go to that family reunion? And a lot of times it's because you're not the person your family expects you to be. So this is a real hot topic, and one that most people have some issue with. So be thinking in those terms. Or do you spend most of your time in your head or in your body? That's another place that is commonly a problem when people come for sound healing and healing in general, is that they have totally disassociated with their bodies. And why does that happen? Well, lots of times they're very hesitant, and you may be hesitant, to talk about or acknowledge or are in denial about some of those abusive kinds of things that may have happened to you when you were a child, some of which you don't even have any recall of, but you are still acting out in such a way as to not really be present or in your body. You aren't able to be intimate with people. You don't trust. And that happens a lot when you have experienced sexual abuse, for example. So those are kinds of things that you may not be dealing with someone in the very first 1 or 2 sessions, or even more, until you develop some trust with them. But your probing of those of the root chakra should eventually uncover or bring to the surface some of those very scary kinds of issues that people still have. So that would be another one that would be involved in root work. And also, under what conditions do you feel scattered or ungrounded? Again, this is a very common one, because any of us who's experienced our struggles in everyday life, we constantly just go up in our heads and get thrown off base by the external things that are happening to us. And a lot of people too are intellectuals. They just spend all the time in their heads. They're idea people, or they like to discuss philosophy and anything that has to do with the intellect or the mental, but they're not very good feelers or touchers or emotional. They aren't very good with coming down and being able to be vulnerable and connected to people, as they sometimes are not able to just be very grounded. They're in their heads and they're not in their bodies. A lot of people that are artists and visionaries or entrepreneurs. Sometimes they're all in their head, they have great ideas and visions, but how do they manifest? Sometimes those ideas stay right where they are. They're all in the head and they never get grounded. They never get brought into being. So just a few things for you to think about. And then we're going to check in with our two victims today and see how they're doing with their own issues and what we're going to be using for material for the first story.